Hello and welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name is Kai Watson and today we're here to talk about Juan Jordan. He's obviously a Sevilla player who's been linked with a move recently. It all came out when Fabrizio Romano had tweeted that Rangers had the first bid rejected. It was rumoured to be about 30% of his paid wage. But again, the rumours kind of stuck about and it seems like it's one we might go back in for. So we do have a Spanish football expert coming on, so Jorge Lopez Torrecilla will be coming on. So let's get started.
Is the Rangers Journal Night.
Hello, so Jorge, welcome to the channel, mate. I tried my absolute best with the pronunciation, so hopefully I done okay. So just say hello to the viewers and just tell them a bit about yourself, tell them what you do.
Yeah, hi Kai, hi everyone. That was a really nice presentation, but I have to say that the intro that followed that was just amazing. So you were outstaged by that intro. Yeah, I'm a Spanish journalist. I follow everything that Spanish football in everything that happens in Spanish football. You know, both La Liga and now the Spanish national team and to an English speaking audience. So yeah, I'm familiar with your podcast, with your work, and really looking forward to it.
You're obviously a very happy man with the Euros recently. Just kind of obviously we didn't have a pleasant experience as a Scotland fan. So how's kind of the mood in Spain right now after the Euros victory?
It's been amazing, like, you know, to see the whole country cheering for one team. You could see Barca fans cheering on Carvajal with a tackle on Musiala, and then the Madridistas cheering for Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams. It was amazing just to see this young core of players performing the way they did in the Euros, you know, beating England in the final. I have a few Scottish friends and they all texted me like, thank you for saving football, and we're welcome. We all enjoyed it, and yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a bit ridiculous watching Yamal and Williams on the wings, to be honest. I think you're kind of set for the next 10, 15 years to come there. But
Yes.
obviously, the reason we're here is to talk about Juan Jordan. So, if you could just, for the viewers, just give us a background on the player, just kind of where he's been, what he's been doing, how his career's kind of panned out so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that has been in La Liga for his entire career. He started in Espanyol, then he moved to Eibar, and in the 18-19 season, he was one of the best midfielders of the competition. Then he got signed by Sevilla, and he won two Europa Leagues with them. He's a really physical midfielder. He's a threat on corners, on aerial duels, and just a midfielder that with a very good physical presence and that has the opposing team's box as his main focus. So he's always trying to move the team forward.
Always the first time I kind of came across him was when he was playing with Eibar. Like, I hadn't heard of him before then, but then there was that period. Eibar obviously got promoted to La Liga and then did a couple of really good seasons there. Like, it kind of
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, and Jordan seemed to be the player that was kind of carrying that. So how good was he in those two seasons? Or I think it was 2 seasons Eibar were in La Liga. Like, how good
Yes.
was he for the spell before he went to Sevilla?
Yes, I mean, he was really amazing. You know, I'm a big fan of big data and advanced metrics, and he was the fifth midfielder, I believe it was, in through balls. He was also one of the top 10 midfielders with best percentage of aerial duels won. So he's just this big physical presence. He has this mindset of Spanish midfielder, like trying to always take advantage of the spaces that the opposing team has, and he has a better mind than physical or like presence. Like he knows how to play football with his head rather than his feet.
I think that's something if you'd have watched any Rangers games last season, that was something we were kind of missing. Didn't seem to have that kind of brains of the operation in there essentially. So if you were going to, obviously midfielders are kind of profiled as like a number six, a number eight, or you're a number 10 if you're
Yeah.
a central player. So if you were going to profile Jordan, what would you say is his best position and his best attributes for that area?
Yeah, I mean, his best attributes would be like controlling what happens in midfield. Like he can do it with the ball or without the ball, because he was the leading man in Sevilla's pressing. Also in Eibar, these were teams that, especially when they played. We saw that a lot when he was with Eibar, because Eibar was a team that played in a mid to low block, and he was that leading man in midfield, like starting to press when they came to the midfield zone. So I think that he will excel if he is to arrive at Rangers. He's gonna be way he's gonna be a physical presence, but he's got also like this mindset to know the tempo of the game.
You obviously talk about the mid to low block there. So in Scottish football, nearly every team apart from Celtic will play against Rangers in a low block. So how effective do you think he can be in helping Rangers kind of break down those low blocks that they come up against?
Yes, because one of the things that stand out from Jordan to me the most is his ability to switch his mindset. Like if he has to defend, he's gonna be your number one guy. But if he has to move the team to the right flank or to the left side, he's gonna do it by having this quick pace with the ball. So actually, he's a really valuable player uh, that now the coach that Sevilla has is not of his taste, let's say like that. But he's a really interesting player.
So going on, he obviously played a lot less football last season than he had seasons before. So
Yeah.
Is that all down to the manager and just deciding that he's not the type of player that he wants in the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, Garcia Pimienta has now arrived to Sevilla from Las Palmas, and he is known for his willingness to control the game from midfield with these quick passes, quick. He wants to get the ball quick to the wingers, and so he has a lot of players at that position. And now Sevilla are in a state of rebuilding, and he's actually one of the discarded players from Garcia Pimienta. But that doesn't mean that he's not a good player.
So he obviously transitioned from being the main man in Eibar to
Yeah.
a much bigger club in Sevilla, and that would be in European competitions. He obviously won the two Europa Leagues there. How did they handle the transition from being the main man to, not saying he was just another midfielder, but he obviously wasn't the player that was getting most of the goals or getting all of the assists? How did they kind of adapt to having to be a player in a system instead of being the main man that kind of had the run of the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Sevilla in these last 10 years. They were a bunch of players who were the first man on their previous team and then had to come to Sevilla, like to try to be the best on the team. And that mindset, he was, well, I mean, he spent a lot of time in Sevilla, and that speaks volumes about his commitment to winning and to put the team above him. So I consider that to be a value and not to be something that you know to be a negative.
I think it's always something that some players struggle with. It's the same as going like being a big fish in a small pond and going from a smaller league to being like the best player in the league to go into a top five league. It's something that players struggle with. But obviously,
Yeah.
after Jordan went to Sevilla, he was linked to Arsenal. Do you know anything about that move? Is it something that was kind of ever close to actually happening?
I don't recall it being close. Sevilla were actually a pretty big team here in Spain. They've struggled these past 2 seasons, but even though they were struggling in La Liga, they won the Europa League. So that is something that Sevilla has been caught in this process of rebuilding the team, and especially in the sporting side of the board too. And that is something that Jordan has been caught in the middle of that, and teams like the Rangers should actually take advantage of it.
It's always something I find quite interesting when you look at Sevilla over the last transfer windows. They do seem to buy a lot of like free agents that are more experienced, like obviously going out and buying someone like Eric Lamela that
Yeah.
didn't get much of a chance at Spurs. He had loan spells. They obviously also went back to Spurs and got like Brian Healy on loan. They tend to, or from what I've noticed anyway, I'm obviously not as close to it as you are, but they don't tend, and it doesn't seem like they tend to focus on younger players. They tend to focus on that experience, which is, I'm assuming, maybe why they're in that rebuild just now and they have to get rid of. They obviously had Ramos, you've got the likes of Navas there as well. So I'm
Yes.
assuming at one point they have to get younger. Is that like a reason why Jordan's going to be cast to the side just now?
Yes, and not only with age as the main component of that, because they have just loaned Rafa Mir to Valencia. Rafa Mir is a pretty good striker. He's not in his 30s. I believe he's 25, 26, something like that. So it's just a process of rebuilding, of setting the tone, of saying we're gonna grind and we have this new coach and we're gonna do whatever he wants us to do to try to win, and it's just the process of rebuilding, of changing the identity of the team, and they have decided that Jordan does not fit the team anymore. I don't see, or I don't share that opinion, especially because if you look at his injury background, he missed like 40 days last season, and that was his biggest injury time in his career. So I don't consider that to be like a main factor. It is true also that he sometimes lacks the concentration, the focus of acknowledging that he's playing in a big stage, and that could be a problem at Rangers. But as long as he controls that, he's going to excel.
That was going to be my next question. So how do you think he would adapt to Scottish football? I don't know how much you've seen of Rangers and Celtic kind of
Yes,
outside European football, but of the Scottish game, do you think he would adapt well?
yes, I mean he excels in long balls, in aerial duels. And he also provides the team with something that I consider really important now in not only Scottish football but also European football. That is the ability to attack and to have the mindset to recognize what you have in front of you and to try to attack it the best way. So if you have a low block, you know that you have to move the ball around as quick as possible. If you have to defend, you know that you have to press high to the other team. And so that's really what has took him to Sevilla to be a two-time Europa League winner. Like he recognizes and he has the mindset when he wants to have that mindset, because sometimes he lacks that focus or that of that acknowledgement of giving a 100%, even though it is not like the biggest game.
The thing, like I said previously, something that Rangers have massively lacked in, especially the base of the midfield, is intelligence. Like it's not any slight to the likes of John Lundstrom or Ryan Jack who played previously, but there's not that, like you say, acknowledgement of when to press and when to hold the ball, when to move it quick. It
Yes.
always just seemed to be they were stuck in like in their head they were going to do one thing, and no matter what was happening round about them, that they were going to do that. So the fact that it obviously sounds like he likes to adapt to the situation is a really nice thing. So just obviously talking about wanting to leave Sevilla. So at the stage of his career, I believe he's only just turned 30, either this month or
Yes.
in the last couple of months. So I'm assuming at this point he's just wanting first team football. Is that the case for him right now?
Yeah, I mean he has the quality to continue playing at a high level. And to be honest, I don't know, especially now with Sevilla, I don't know if this is like a downgrade or actually an upgrade, because you're gonna be playing at a huge team in Scottish football. You're gonna have the chance to play also in the Champions League, which is something that you don't have with Sevilla. And to be a main man in a big team like this, I actually believe that this is an opportunity for him, not a chance of a downgrade because you were discarded by Sevilla. This is actually a huge opportunity because you're going to play for one of Europe's biggest teams.
The fans are going to love hearing that.
No, but it's true.
He's a player I really like the look of. Like watching the footage, I watched the highlights of him like last season. He obviously didn't play as many games, but it kind of reminded me of when like Xabi Alonso got a bit older, the way he likes to receive the ball and spray the passes, which isn't something we've had. Obviously, when you play against a low block, you have to open up the pitch, and that's something that Rangers have really struggled to do recently. So him coming in and being able to do that would be ideal, and I think exactly what we need in the midfield. The only thing, obviously, is it was reported that Sevilla had rejected the 30% the Rangers were wanting to pay. I think the max Rangers would be willing to go to would be about 50%, whereas I know Sevilla obviously want to get his whole salary kind of off the books. So I think that's where the deal might struggle. Is there anything else you know about that? About if there's a chance that Sevilla accept the 50%, or
Yeah, I mean, if you want, we can get started on La Liga's fair play, but it is something like Barcelona, Sevilla, Betis. They all struggle with it. So I don't know how much Rangers are willing to push for him. I don't know how much space do Sevilla have to to play or to negotiate with the club. But it is something that it's a struggling thing for every team in Spain, and it's gonna be like this for almost for 5 years or so. Yeah, so it is a problem for both selling and signing.
because I know obviously I would assume that Sevilla already wanted him out, but they've just signed Saul, who I seen had agreed to take a 50% pay cut to
Yes,
leave Atletico, and I'm sure there was not another central midfielder that Sevilla signed. I know Saul was the most recent one, but I remember seeing, I don't know if it was just a link to another central midfielder, but it seemed like they were going really heavy on the recruitment for central midfield when they've obviously not got rid of many players yet. So it's an interesting, that's obviously what Rangers are struggling with just now, is having the space and the wage budget to bring players in. So we are trying to get rid of players, whereas Sevilla seem to be kind of like tying themselves up in more wages before they get rid of
yes,
players. So hopefully, well, I'm hoping that works in Rangers' favour, because I really like the look of Jordan, and I think he could be exactly what we need, especially going into a Champions League campaign where we don't have a
yes.
massive experience in midfield, and particularly players that aren't that experienced in Europe. Like, it doesn't get much better than a 2 times Europa League winner, especially when it's been so recent.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that actually like it works for all the parties. Like the player wants to play, Rangers wants to sign him, and Sevilla wants to sell him. And whenever this happens in a transfer, it always works out for the best. So yeah, fingers crossed it happens, and fingers crossed it happens before the UCL round. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping my fingers crossed that it happens before the squad registration. But we'll end it there, Jorge. So thank you so much for coming on. Just let the
My
viewers know
pleasure.
where they can find you online. We'll leave your links down below, but just again, just reiterate kind of what you do, where they can find you, what kind of social media and stuff as well.
Yes, so I'm on Twitter or X at JL Torresilla, like my surname. And I cover Spanish football, La Liga. Now we finished the Euros. And yeah, I try to be as honest as I can. I don't have any affiliation with any club. So you can see Griezmann highlights, Lamine Yamal's, now Mbappe highlights too. So yeah, hop on, and I'm gonna be cheering for you guys this summer. Like I really enjoy Scottish football. I really enjoy your culture and the ambience that you guys produce, and it is always a happy sight to witness in the Champions League. So hoping to see you guys there.
Fingers crossed we're all happy this summer. So again, guys,
Yep.
thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll hand over to the rest of the lads to have a wee discussion on this. So thank you.
Hi everybody and welcome. That was Jorge Lopez Torresilla giving us the breakdown on Juan Jordan. Quite an interesting interview, I must say. Not sure whether a deal's going to happen or not. I think there's maybe a wee bit of wiggle room there. But firstly, I'll welcome everybody and welcome to the panel. Mitch, how you doing, pal?
Good to be back, and thanks for having us. And that was a very interesting interview there with Jorge. A lot of really good insight there, not just into what he's been doing at Sevilla, but also at Elbar and beyond there as well, which was a lot of probably far more information than any of us, if we're being honest, there knew about Juan, Juan beforehand.
Aye, definitely. Dino, how are you, pal?
I'm good, buddy. Thank you. How are you getting on?
Aye, not bad. Back for another Thursday club, eh?
Okay.
Right, so the point he's paused is to watch the interview and then kind of break it down bit by bit. We'll spend 15-20 minutes chatting about it and we'll see how it goes. Welcome to everybody over in the comments. Thank you for tuning in. Smash that like button for me. So obviously Jorge kind of started off talking about how Juan Jordan likes to move a team forward and started his career at Elba, spent a couple of years there before getting his transfer to Sevilla. He likes control in the midfield. Mitch, what's your impression on a player?
You're on mute, mate.
Way. Still can't hear you, Mitch.
I just the mute button.
Go, boys.
I know.
Mishap there, and we had a technical mishap there in the mire there. my impression really is the bit of steel in the midfield that we've not had. And I think it's been that little bit of forward thinking, as Kai touched on it on the interview, of a player that actually is using the brain inside his head to go, I want the ball to go in front of us, rather than let's just play a safe back pass for the sake of playing a safe back pass. Because let's be honest, I don't know about you boys, but I'm sick to my stomach of hearing back pass, back pass, back pass. But nice to see somebody pivot from the base of midfield to say, and essentially quarterback the team on the way forward, to say, I want to bring wingers into play, or I want to bring my attacking midfielder into play. I want to bring others in front of me into play, rather than saying, do you know what, I'm going to chip it back to corner and watch him hoof it 50 yards up the park.
Aye, I know.
Massive corners here, but that's a different question.
Aye, it definitely is. Definitely is. Dino, what about you? So, when Kai asked Jorge about the kind of profile, but it basically answered a 6 to me. I don't know about you, but what's your kind of early impressions?
My early impressions are that he is going to bring some much needed leadership in terms of his ability to move the game forward with or without the ball. So that signals to me that it's somebody who wants to take responsibility in the middle of the park, and something that we have lacked severely lacked in recent times. So, and I guess it's would be a big part of reinforcing that spine that I think we all believe needs reinforced, and having somebody of that sort of that experience of winning. And I think it's actually quite interesting to realise that his journey as well. He's not somebody that's just been went through the academy at Sevilla. He's had to fight to get himself to the place that he got. So that ticks a box for me as well. So those are the kind of characters that I want in and around our Rangers team.
Mitch, Jorge also said that Sevilla played in a mid to low block and he was a kind of leading man in it. Now, obviously, he's going to be playing against a mid to low block most weeks at Ibrox. Do you think it should be a smooth enough transition for him, shouldn't it?
I think Jorge might need to evaluate what a mid to low block looks like. He's not seen Dingwall away. But I think, in all honesty, I actually think it's good to know that I think the one thing our midfield has lacked, not just with Ryan Jack's inability to pull a few games together, not a knock on the boy, we all know the brain was there, the body wasn't. But I think giving us another option there in that at the base there, with the likes of Nico Raskin as well, having a mentor in there. For me, I think it's that little bit more of a learning tree approach, that's there for the other players around him. That are the wages high? Yes, but we know that you're not getting a player from Sevilla without a big wage. Let's be honest here. Do I think we should be paying over 35, 40? Probably not. And again, I think that's just been sensible based on the league that we're in. And, if we take the probability of Europa League versus the possibility of Champions League, I think you have to be a bit pragmatic. And I think he's certainly a player that he brings us a much better quality that we don't quite have yet, and probably that Scottish football has struggled to attract over the last 3 to 5 seasons. That's not a knock on necessarily us. I mean, we've all got our gripes about the recruitment strategy, but I mean, that's a 6-part podcast on its own. But I think it certainly shows for me, I've got a lot more trust in what Klopp and Clement want as well, because that tells me that they want, Dino touched on it, somebody with that winning mentality and somebody he's a 2-time Europa League winner.
Right.
This isn't this isn't a player that we're picking up from a non-top 5 Euro League that's, he's scored a couple of goals against, a couple of joiners, in another league. This is a boy that's been there, he's bought the hat and he's bought the t-shirt, and the only reason that we're in a position that we're even talking about potentially getting him is he's deemed at 30-year-old in his prime that he's just a bit too old for where they are because he's been at the club too long. Sevilla are going through their cycle much like we're going through ours. But the one thing, Sevilla want to bring their age down, but what we need now is we've actually got a relatively very young midfield at the moment that needs, I don't want to say they need an adult in there, but they do need an experienced head in there to say, 22, 23-year-old Nico Raskin shouldn't be bearing the brunt of that himself. And he did have John Lundstrom previously to bounce off of, whereas now he's going to need somebody else to bounce off of. And I think having somebody that's that better quality to bounce off of not only helps us short term, but also helps us with somebody like Raskin's transfer fee 2 to 3 years down the line.
Fair point. Dean, we've not replaced Stephen Davis since he left, and I remember Michael Beale yapping away about when Raskin came in, he was going to be that head in the middle of the park that was going to help dictate things and stuff like that. I think Raskin's been a bit misused since he's come in. I think it's fair to say he's not been used in that role very often. Do you think this guy potentially could be not a direct replacement for Stephen Davis, but will help fill some of the qualities that Davis brought to Rangers?
Aye, I think we've got to actually, didn't beat around the bush here. From my opinion, he is going to be the Stephen Davis replacement because he's never been replaced. Mm-hmm. So, and the qualities that he brought to our side was night and day difference. I remember when we signed him, and as soon as he came into that Rangers side, it just instantly made it better at the raw age of 33, 34, or however, do you know what I mean? So having somebody with all those qualities come in is something that we've not had since. And yeah, Raskin could have been that player, and I did always think that when he was playing out in the left side of a 3 and things like that, I did kind of feel that I got the impression he was awkward there. It never really suited him, in my opinion. But this guy just sounds like somebody who's going to be the centre of everything. And I always like to use the phrase, I feel like Davis was the heartbeat of our Rangers side.
Nice.
And I kind of get the impression this guy could come in and fill that void with ease.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Which Jorge also said that Juan Jordan's going to bring a physical presence and he's got the mindset, the tempo. Now, that's really important domestically and in Europe. Do you think that he could potentially, obviously, setting up attacks, etc.? What's your thoughts on them comments?
I think I hold a slight element of reservation on them, and it's not a doubt on player ability, but I think it's one of these ones of La Liga is physical.
let's not beat about the bush. It's a very, very physical league, but it's also a league that when you've got that half ounce of footballing ability and football intelligence, you will make space for yourself on the ball. In Scotland, let's be honest here, the minute a ball touches your foot, you've got a player right up your jacksie ready to take it off your toe. For me, do I think he's got plenty enough experience, intelligence, and everything else to get around it? Absolutely. But I always think, again, when it comes to non-domestic players, it might take him 2-3 months maybe to settle into that first couple of rough shoulder barges and the first, let's be honest, the first 2-footer that comes into him. And I think for me, where I would be happier would be, how does he react to that first 2-footer? Does he react it like a pro, get back up on his 2 feet, brush it off like it didn't happen? Or does he lash out and do something stupid and go in for a 2-footer of his own? That's the only question mark I have. And that ties in with what Jorge was saying about the concentration aspect. Where you go, does he get the red rag to a bull because he's had that lapse in concentration that's led to him getting a 2-footer? Where he goes, do you know what, instant reaction is to react? Or does he stay calm and just go, do you know what, let's brush it off and I'll outplay you and I'll make you look stupid?
Dean, I'm going to let you come in on Mitch's comments there about his lack of focus, I think Jorge said. He was injured for 40 days last season. You've been quite vocal in your concerns about Rangers going out and signing players that are carrying injuries. Is this something that's concerning you? The concentration aspect and the fact he was out injured last year?
To be quite honest with you, how do we look at his injury record, and that doesn't bother me. I would be surprised if a player gets to the age of 30 and hasn't had, a reasonable spell out with an injury. There's not very many players that I can think of that have had that success. The lack of concentration is something that does bother me, because that is something that has been apparent and that we seem to have been immersed in over the last few years. And we're needing somebody to come in that's not going to be, you've got to be focused 100% of the time, because that one time out of 100, we concede a goal, doesn't it? Every single time. It doesn't matter. It just that one bit of concentration. The team that we're playing against are that clinical. They score against us. But I'm going to kind of caveat that with his game. So he's very, very, very good in aerial duels. So he wants to be getting involved in aerial duels. So the majority of the times when players have lost concentration is because it's the ball they've been unable to judge where to head or to win the ball. Do you know what I mean? So he comes across as a type of player who's got that footballing IQ, who would be able to actually read the game well enough for him to be able to win the header and things like that. So I guess playing at Ibrox is going to be I guess it's a test for anybody, but I think it's something that he would actually take well into his stride. And given all these other attributes, I'm pretty confident that he would be able to overcome any sort of minimal lapses of concentration.
Fair point, mate. Fair point. Mitch, obviously Dean says there that he picks up aerial duels, he can set up attacks. Something Jorge said is that he's got the quality to continue to be the main man in a big team. I thought it was actually very complimentary about Rangers, and so sort of thank you for that initially.
Definitely try to get a ticket for a final, isn't he?
What's your thoughts on them comments?
Do you know what? I think his comments are very fair, but also very measured. That's the comments of somebody who has watched the player over the last couple of seasons and what he knows exactly what he's capable of. By no stretch of the imagination, let's be honest here, at 30, and I say this is a 33-year-old man, 30-year-old is not over the hill. But all it means is he's basically been through a 5-year cycle now at Seville. And one thing that Seville have always been very, very good at is knowing when it's time to move a player on and when to say something that we've not particularly been very good at, let's be honest, that they know when to say, do you know what, we've been here 46 years, thanks for your service, away up the road and go and enjoy your career elsewhere, because right now we are moving on to phase 2 of what we are planning and doing next. And I think the sounds of what Jorge was saying there, I mean, let's be honest there, also by the sound of it, he's a player that he's not probably going to be short of options. I do think it was important, though, that he did touch on the Arsenal links there, so that that percentage of our fan base that says we're getting a £30 million player can just calm their knickers before it gets absolutely wild. It was a transfer that was floated mostly in the papers as opposed to between the clubs, but he's definitely going to have his suitors, let's be honest, there, particularly in La Liga, with ourselves. Personally speaking, I would rather he came here, plus the fact, who wants to stay in Spain when he can go to Govan?
Aye, exactly. Mitch, I'm going to stay with you. Do you think the lapses, obviously you brought up a good comment in the private chat here, Jink, the quality of the league will help cover the lapses of concentration that Jorge says he has?
Do you know, I think the league differential between La Liga and the SPL, let's be honest, in La Liga, it's played at such ferocity and intensity. You know, the games get played at 900 mile an hour compared to here. I think that maybe moving out of a top 5 league and moving into, let's call it a top 6 league, you know, we'll be a bit more overly complimentary to the Scottish League. But I think moving from a top 5 league to ourselves, and maybe that probably also, one, preserves that concentration aspect, but also, two, he has a potential there to prolong his own career here as well. Now, I'm thinking 3 years down the road, so I'm probably thinking too far down the road, and falling in love with a lone player is a dangerous game. But, you know, I think probably moving out of that top 5 realm into a non-top 5 league probably covers that. Our league's played at probably, let's say, 120 mile an hour versus 900 mile an hour.
Aye, definitely. Charles in the comments says that teams halfway down would, and in a Spanish league would win the SPFL. You've got to agree with that. I mean, Jorge then lastly brought up the concerns in La Liga with financial fair play just now. Do you think that can bring up an opportunity to potentially negotiate a deal?
I do think it's something that we can capitalise on if the opportunity arises. We are, you know, one thing I don't want us to do, because I want us to get away from it, is paying high wages, you know, for players, and you kind of want us to be lower our wage bill quite a bit. And I think somebody posted the other one, he's on 58 grand a week as well, out with the sort of budget I would think that we would be shopping in, the market would be shopping in. So if we were able to get 50% off that, I'd be happy with that. I would, for a player of that quality to come in, because let's be honest, not every player that we're going to be bringing in, we're going to be able to get for 10, 15 grand a week. We're going to be having to spend, and the fact that Spain are going through their own problems at the moment, and as the guy said, what he said, it's everybody in the league. So, by the sounds of things, there might be more than one opportunity for us to embark on. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that we can definitely work to our advantage.
Mitch had just brought up another point in a private chat saying about Silva's wage. Look at the wage we must have been paying Silva last year.
I don't because that just gives me that absolute fear.
If rumour be true, we were paying somewhere between 45 and 55 grand a week to Silva. So, you know, the only thing I would say, right, and I'm not going to hark on too much about his wages, because his wages are what they are. You know, we're getting a player for a top 5 league. My thing with that is sometimes you have to make an investment in a player, and it's for the overall betterment of the overall squad value. We're at the start of a new cycle, which is going to take, let's be honest here, this window plus 2 or 3 to get everything the way we want to get it. I think this move, you make that investment now, which then helps basically bring up the value of younger players in the squad by having by having a proper apprenticeship under somebody who's more experienced and capable above them. So for that, do you spend a couple of £1 million or or £1.5 million? I know it's a trigger phrase at the moment, £1.5 million in wages, but do you spend that this season right now to make 8, 10, £12 million on one player, maybe next summer, the summer after? For me, that becomes a kind of very smart profit and loss on there. You take a short-term hit. There's no commitment to keep him beyond a season if he comes. It's a come in, be the learning tree, be the mentor. Thanks for your service, away back to Spain.
Guess it's like the old cliche: speculate to accumulate.
That's it. And sometimes, I mean, don't get me wrong, do I want to see too many investment players this summer? Absolutely not, because I do think, as you've touched on already, I don't want to see too many 30-plus-year-olds getting paid, high end of 30s in a week, because again, that's how we've got into the mess that we've got into just now. What I don't mind is seeing somebody like, say, Jordan coming in +1 on, say, 30 grand a week, knowing how much money we've, even in the players whose contracts have expired. You go, well, now I can see where that money's going to be spent, and that is essentially future investment for the rest of the squad right now.
Aye. All good points. Paul, just to answer your question, I think that it will just be a straight loan. I don't think we'll be buying them at all. I think it would be no daft the Rangers to buy him, but get him in on loan first, and then you can let the papers and the support kind of take it away from here, whether we hype him up or whether he's a Fabio Silva or an Abdallah Sima, basically. Kind of that's your two standard bearers, I think.
Told you, mate, don't fall in love with a lone player. It's a dangerous game.
I know. Tell us about it. So we'll quickly, one more question. Dean, do you think this deal's going to happen?
50-50, mate.
50-50. Do you want it to happen?
Aye, I definitely do. I want somebody with that pedigree. Although it'd only be a loan signing, I think it'd be a bit of a marquee signing as well, and it would be a wee lift for the fans.
Aye. Well, fair enough. Mitch, same questions to you, mate.
I think it could happen. I would like it to happen. I would say maybe I'm maybe a bit more cautious when I go 60-40. It might not happen, and I do just purely think Sevilla could find themselves in a position of penalty shootout. Who's willing to cover the most of his wages? And at that point, that probably rules us out. And that's a team from Germany or a team in England or another Spanish team can come in and say, tell you what, we'll cover 45, 50 grand a week. At that point, we have to say, all right, thanks for bringing us to the dance, and we move on to the next one. But if it doesn't happen, I'm also encouraged by what the experienced player profile that Clement and Coppen have spoke about. That shows us what the pedigree looks like. So if we miss out on that target, am I scared by it? No. Would I be a bit gutted? Aye. But, dreams can come true.
Right, that's it. Dino, I'm going to come to you first. Thank you for coming on, mate.
Aye, thanks for having me. Pleasure and privilege as always, and good to see you again, Mitch. And please like, share and subscribe, guys.
Cheers, Dino. Mitch, thank you for coming on, mate. How's things over at the Fourth Official treating you?
All well, mate. As the old expression goes, I've got the keys for another week while they're Gary's sunning himself. But aye, all good, mate. Like, it's nice to be back on here, and it's nice to be invited back on. It's always good to speak to fellow like-minded fans as well. Really enjoy being here.
No, you're always welcome, mate. Always welcome. So thank you for coming on. Everybody jump over to Fourth Official and give them a wee like and subscribe from their mates here at Rangers Journal. Apart from that, that's your breakdown on Juan Jordan. No info on the deal. We don't know what stage it's at, if it's going to happen, if there's negotiations and they go. I'm sure we'll find out in the next couple of days. There's been kind of bits of transfer news starting to come out now, so I think it's fair to say that things are starting to move in the right direction. But anyway, remember, every night is Rangers Journal night.